Shrestha manamapi sachiputam atra surupam rupam tasyagrajamuri purim maturim gostvatim Radha Kunda Magivaram Aho Radhika Madhuvasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Guru Tam Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Ananda-Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemabhadivyatschavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Bhaktya Vira Aparana Dakshay Shilpashtakamanitarangamaddhe Kripa Mahitvam Sharanam Brahmanam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Hey Krishna Hey Yadava Hey Sakhi Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Sham Sundar Shikanda Shikar Swaha Sumurli Manora Radhikar Sukamama Kripanidhe Swapriya Charna Kinkurim Kuru Tavaivasmi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tayabana Iti Vikyaya Devi Tam Nayamam Charantikam. First of all, I offer my sastang, dandavat pranam, my heart like flowers thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual guru, Asmadya Paramaradatam Guru Padapadma, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupada Stotarasata Srimad Rupanuga Acharya Varya Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. Finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and By the closest mercy of Sri Guru and Gauranga, we are hearing from the literature incarnation of the Supreme Lord Himself. Apara samsara samudra setum bhajamahe bhagavata swarupam. O Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, you are full of endless mercy, and you make a bridge across the ocean of material existence so that all living beings may be delivered from this world. I bow down to you, Supreme Lord, in the form of Srimad-Bhagavatam. As Krishna incarnates among the fish as Matsya Avatar, as he incarnates among the mammals as Varahadev, among the reptiles as the Kurmadev, among the human beings as Lord Ram, and so on. So similarly, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself incarnates among the Shastras in his form Grantha Avatar Srimad-Bhagavatam. So one should be acutely aware that when we are hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna is amongst us. In the 6th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, there it is described that once in Swargalok, Amaravati, the capital city of Indra, Lord Indra was seated upon his throne. He was being served by so many devatas. Apsaras were dancing, Gandharvas were singing, Siddhas and Charanas, various species of devatas were all honoring him. And in this way, he was enjoying the luxury and opulence of heaven. At that time, his Gurudev, Sri Brihaspati, began to enter into that assembly. And Indra saw him. Oh, Gurudev is coming. But he did not immediately register. I must rise from my seat and pay obeisances to my spiritual master, because he had become intoxicated and proud of being the king of heaven. So noting that mood in his heart, in Indra's heart, Brihaspati immediately turned around and left. Indra immediately felt a guilty conscience. Oh, I really made a mistake. And he was sincere enough to stand up and announce his mistake in front of everyone. He said, it is the tradition and culture to give honor to senior personalities, such as one's guru. And if one does not do this, then one's life is ruined. Those who stray away from the path of the Vedic tradition, they cannot attain any auspicious destination. They are like a person who is trying to cross the ocean by stepping aboard a stone boat. So such persons and persons who follow those persons, who don't honor and follow the established traditions, they all get onto a stone boat. They cannot make progress in life. They will sink in this material world. So then he said, at once I must leave and find my spiritual master and pay obeisances to him. So Indra left the assembly and he was looking for Brihaspati. But Brihaspati was ready to teach him a lesson. By his mystic power he became invisible. So it didn't matter wherever Indra went to look for him, he could not find him. So just after that, shortly after that, the news had spread that Indra had disrespected his guru. And the Asuras, the race of demons, they thought, oh, this is now our chance. And they were doing puja and worshipping their guru Shukracharya with so much respect, well, in a worldly sense. and opulence. And by the blessings of Shukracharya they became powerful. And then the demons set off and they invaded heaven. There was a huge battle between the demons and the demigods. And the demons were victorious. So, in the beginning of this Upakhyan, this history, it is shown the power of worshipping, respecting one's Gurujan. Even Sri Krishna said, Acharya mam vijaniyam navamanyete kaichat namachabhujasuyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. You should know that the Acharya is my very self. Never disrespect him. Think he is an ordinary human being. He is an embodiment of all the devotees. Actually, the context in which this verse is spoken is in regard to a guru on the path of karma, which is astonishing. In the Vedic culture, even you are not a transcendentalist. You are a regular person in society, but you have your family guru, and from him you are learning how to do your karma and dharma in this world properly. So that is Sri Krishna saying, that Acharya you should see. Respect is not different from myself. Because within the performance of karma, there's also some worship must be done also to Vishnu. And also just the mentality, just the recognition of God's presence is beneficial for the living entity. Therefore, Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad in Srimad-Bhagavatam, he said that if a person worships a blade of grass, thinking this blade of grass is God, he will be liberated. He'll attain the siddhi of liberation from this. Why? Because actually God is everywhere. We want to become conscious of God's presence everywhere, but our consciousness is in a lower level, so we try to be conscious of God in one place to begin with. So if the guru on the path of karma like Shukracharya is to be honored so much, then what to speak of the guru in the paramarthik jivan, in transcendental life? How much more such a personality is worthy of our honor and adoration. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Satma, who is the abode of Kevala Bhakti, pure, unmixed love for Shri Krishna. So we see that Indra, by a slight disrespect, then he met with disaster. And the demons, by showing respect to their guru, they became more powerful than the devotees. So it's very important to give up the sense of ahankar, doership, that I am the cause of the results of my activities. Kamanye varikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma kama phala hetubu maste sangosta kamini. Krishna said, you can do your duties, but don't think that you are the enjoyer of the results of your activities. Don't even think that you are the cause of the results of your activities. The results will come from past karma. And if one will serve the spiritual master now, then of divine transcendental results, for which we are actually not eligible or qualified to receive, but still it will come. Just as yesterday we were discussing, the four Kumaras, they were not at all conscious or inclined towards the personal feature of God. They are absorbed in Brahman. But just because they were respectful and they honored their guru, Lord Brahma, who was a Vaishnava and had compassion for them, so that opportunity came that even they had the darshan of Lord Narayan and they became Vaishnavas. So all success that you will experience in your life, in the future, or what you are experiencing now on the path of bhakti, is coming only by the fervent desire of our spiritual master that Krishna will sprinkle his mercy upon us. So then, now Indra, his soldiers were defeated. It was a very critical situation. He had no guru. What should he do? So he went to Lord Brahma to take advice. Because when there's a disaster in the universe, then Lord Brahma is the head of the department of universal affairs. So they went to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma told Indra, oh, there is one Brahman. His name is Vishvarup, the son of Twasta. He has a great wealth of austerities. You should take shelter of him, serve and honor him, and you will, by this you'll be able to regain your position and power. So then, Indra and the devotees, very humbly, they approached Vishvarup and asked him to become their priest. So Vishvarup was young. And when they asked him to become their priest, he said, actually, a Brahmin does not like to take the occupation of being a priest. Now Kali Yuga has come, so it's a little different. Now very often we see the Brahmanas, they're trying to essentially take employment. I'll do your wedding, I'll do your birth ceremony, death ceremony, this. They want to be engaged in all of these things. But the real Brahmin, he prefers to do Sailanchan Vritti. That means live by picking up the grains, which when the farmer did the harvesting, some of the grains fell on the ground, he'll collect this and take this. Why? Because when a Brahmin accepts the occupation of a priest, then he has to distribute his Brahma Tejas to the beneficiaries in return for some material facility. So they give some money and he shares his Brahma Tejas that he's accumulated by his tapasya. So what Brahman wants to deplete his stock of Brahma Tejas or Brahminical power by accepting employment as a priest of this one and that one. So at first Vishwarup, he said, I am not eager to do this. However, you are the Lokapals. You are authorities in the universe and you are senior persons. You are older than me. And you have requested me, therefore, to please my seniors, I accept this position. So Vishwarupi became their Purohit, their priest. And they began to do sacrifices under his guidance. So Indra was in a very dangerous predicament. He lost the war against the demigods. So he inquired, how can we defeat them? So Vishwarup taught him the Narayan Kavach. The Narayan Kavach. Kavach means a shield. It's a protective shield. In this Narayan Kavach, the person who learns it, they'll have to do Karanyas. And Anganyas. It means invoke various deities and syllables of mantras on their fingers, on parts of their bodies as well. Just like we do, we put on tilak and then we touch our tilak. Some Keshavaya Namah, Narayana, Madhavaya, Govindaya Namah, like this. But actually we are not doing Anganyas. According to the Vidhi, when you touch that part of your body and say the mantra, you're installing that deity in that part of the body. But this is not favorable for Raganuga Bhakti. Dwaka Dhyan, meditating and serving Rukmini Satyabhama, is unfavorable for Raganuga Bhakti. Ahangra Upasana, identifying yourself with the object of worship, is unfavorable for Raganuga Bhakti. Sometimes in Vaidhi Bhakti, you have to, if you're serving a deity, take the insignia or the ornaments of the deity and hold them to yourself and identify with the deity. That is called Ahangropasana. But in Raganuga Bhakti it's not favorable. So sometimes you have to take the flute and hold like this and then give it to the deity. But you should just think that you're showing the paraphernalia to the deity, not that you're actually doing Ahangropasana. And when we touch the parts of our body, we should not think we're installing deities. only that we're taking shelter of the Supreme Lord and His holy name by remembering the mantra. So, in Raganuga Bhakti, Nyas, Anganyas, Karanyas, Mudras, the use of mudras, hand gestures in deity worship, Dwarka Dhyan and Ahangaropasana, all of these things are neglected in Raga Marga. Otherwise, all other aspects of Vaidhi Bhakti we have to follow. So, Vishwarup taught Indra how to do Karanyas, Anganyas, and how to offer so many prayers, which together this ritual constitutes the Narayan Kavacha, the shield of Lord Narayan, that protects one from all types of danger and calamity. So, there's a very beautiful verse there in the Narayan Kavach. Yataikatmyanubhavanam vikalparahita swayam bhushana yudalingakya date shakti swamayaya. It means that the Supreme Lord, He is vikalpa rahita, non-different from His Shakti, non-different from Bhushana, His ornaments, Yuddha, His weapons, His forms, His names. All of these things are supported by His internal potency, Swarup Shakti. So Vikalpa Rahit is a very interesting concept. There are three things. Shabda, the sound of a word. Artha, the meaning of the word. Gyan, the knowledge of the object which is indicated by that word. Then there's the actual object itself. So, when these three things, Shabda, Artha and Gyan, are mixed up, this is called Vikalpa. When three things which are distinct are experienced in the mind as one, this is called Vikalpa. Or conversely, when things which are actually one are experienced as different, this is also called Vikalpa. So for example, if a yogi is meditating, then he can say the word cow. So there's a sound, Shabda, cow, go. But that sound, go, has a meaning, Artha. It refers to a particular animal. And then there is Gyan, the actual knowledge. In other words, that the object as it is appears in his consciousness, in his meditation. So when one experiences these three things distinctly, they're not mixed up or confused in the mind, that the sound is one thing, the meaning is another, the object is another, then this is called Vikalpa. However, with transcendental things, there's no difference between the sound, the meaning and the object. So when we meditate on the transcendental things, when we experience a difference between those things which are one, that is called Vikalpa. So one offense to the holy name is Harinam Nikalpanam. That means to give an imaginary interpretation of the name. Why? Because the name does not require interpretation. The name itself is directly Krishna. So here, in the Narayan Kavacha, it is stated that Vikalpa Rahita, the Supreme Lord, His name, His ornaments, the associates, His form, His clothing, everything there, Vikalpa Rahita, there's no difference between them. And that all of these things, they are supported by His Swarup Shakti. Therefore, one cannot chant the holy name without the shelter of the Swarup Shakti. If there's no shelter of Swarup Shakti, one will not experience the name. One will experience Namakshara Bahirai, Bhati Namat Kabunai. The external sound of the syllables is not the same as the Parama Akshara, the transcendental syllables. Sometimes devotees get confused. They think this was the sound of the syllables is not really the name, so they think that the name isn't composed of syllables. Right? But this is not a fact. The external sound of material syllables is not the same as the transcendental syllables. Also, name is always Akshar Roop. But because that Akshar Roop, that name composed of syllables, is Vikalpa Rahita, when it's experienced, when one is under the shelter of the internal potency, then Nam, Roop, Gun, Parikalila, everything comes. So how will we get that shelter of the internal potency? Sadhu Sangha. By Sadhu Sangha. Shri Guru is under the shelter of the internal potency. When we take shelter of Guru, then we become under the shelter of the internal potency. Therefore it said, Asat Sangha by Krishna Nam Nahi Hai. Without the association of pure devotees, it's not possible to chant the holy name. Yeah? Because there's no transmission of Swarup Shakti, which supports the appearance. So Sevan Mukhi Jivado Swayameva Spuratida. When we become Sevan Mukh, inclined to service, then name begins to manifest his power. Also, in the Nishinga Kavach, there are so many prayers. May Buddha protect me, may Varahadev protect me, may all the incarnations should protect me. So, may Lord Nishingadev protect me as he protected Prahlad Maharaj. So here again we find the glories of the holy name. Because Prahlad Maharaj, he was saved from fire, from poison, from weapons, from the elephants, from the elements also. So how was Prahlad Maharaj saved? Because he was always chanting the holy name. So the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj being delivered again and again is actually the glory of Nam. Everywhere in the Shastra the glories of the name are there. So, having received this Narayan Kavach, then Indra began to practice it every day, and he developed spiritual power, some protection. It was blessing of the Lord, but not in bhakti, because this is mixed. The Lord also fulfills material desires. And so his desires was filled. Again, Indra went to war against the demons, and this time he was victorious. And he was reinstated as the king of heaven. So now he thought everything is good. I am reinstated as the king of heaven. I have my Brahmin Vishwarup. He's doing sacrifices to make me more powerful and more successful. When Brahma told Indra, go to Vishwarup, he also gave a little caution. He said, you should honor and serve him, but you should tolerate if he has some partiality towards the demons. Because Vishwarup, on his mother's side, his grandmother was from the dynasty, from the race of demons. So, though he was performing yagya for the devatas, he had a little partiality in his heart for the demons. So he used to make sacrifice. Oh, Mitraya Swaha, and he would make oblations on behalf of different devatas. And then quietly he would do some oblations for some asuras as well. So Indra, just when he thought everything was fine and successful in his life, he was watching the Vishwarup do the yagya. Vishwarup was not aware, and he heard him quietly making some oblations on behalf of the asuras. And hearing this, Indra flew into a rage. And at once, he took a weapon and he cut off. Or did I tell you, Vishwarup has 3 heads? Anyway, so he cut off the 3 heads of Vishwarup. One head was for eating, one head was for drinking sombaras, and one was for drinking sura. So Indra killed him, and then afterwards he felt regrets. Uh-oh.
What is drinking sura?
Sura. Literally, Sura means wine. It's not. It's what is available in heaven, not what is available from the pub. Some type of heavenly intoxicate. In the heavenly planets, they're allowed certain types of sense gratification. They don't have gross bodies like us, so they have a more. They follow Vedic morality, but things which would be immoral for us are allowed for them. Like associating with Menaka, Urvashi, Ramba and other apsaras, the courtesans of heaven. If you do that here, then it will be very sinful and you'll fall down. But that's one of the perks of being in heaven. And that's why people are eager to do the karma kanda yagyas, to go there and experience these things. But any of this type of heavenly enjoyment cannot satisfy the soul. And also it will be over in a few moments. So a wise person, adhyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. A wise person never takes pleasure in anything which is temporary, a pleasure which will have a beginning or an end. So now Indra was in big trouble because he committed Brahma Hatya, killing a Brahmin. So this is the reaction will be terrible. So then Indra had to do penance for a whole year to free himself from the reactions of killing a Brahmin. But still he was contaminated. So he divided the reaction to this offense into 4 parts. Now you know that he gave some part of that karmic reaction to the earth, to the land, that on the earth deserts would come. So deserts are a sinful reaction distributed by Indra for Brahma Hatya, killing a Brahmin. One portion he gave to the trees, by which they would leak sap. One portion he gave to the water, by which it would become foam. Foam would come. So one should not drink foamy water. It's dangerous, and one ingests pap. And 1/4 was given to the ladies also. But this has a very deep meaning. Why did he divide his pap into 4? Because his body has 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether. Ether cannot become contaminated by anything. So 4 elements are there: earth, water, fire and air. So to purify each one of the elements of his body, he distributed the pap. However, though the pap was distributed, the pap beej, the seed, we were discussing this in Shvaibanam, the seed of that pap, the impression in the consciousness, he didn't get rid of that. And what happens if you do atonement to become free from a sin? You become free from the reaction to that sin. But because the seed is still there, then you will be forced to do the same thing again. You'll be forced to repeat that act. It's unavoidable. And this is why later Indra had to kill Vrtrasura, who was also a Brahmin. He was Vishnu's brother. So Indra's engagement in killing Vrtrasura was because the sin of killing the Vishvarup. Only bhakti, not even yoga sadhana, can remove the papa beej. Only sadhana bhakti, shuddha bhakti, can remove those seeds that we don't become perpetually entangled in worldly activities. So then, the father of Vishvarup became very angry. Indra killed my son. There. Indra's listening. He likes to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, Indra killed my son. I'll do a sacrifice to produce a being who will destroy Indra. So then the father Vrtrasura, he began to do a yajna, and he told the vinayog, the goal of the sacrifice, that was to increase the power of Indra Shatru. So Indra Shatru means the enemy of Indra. According to the rules of the compounds in Sanskrit, this is a Tatpurush Samas. Indra Shatru, the Shatru, the enemy of Indra, his power should increase. And thereby he will be able to kill Indra. However, when you chant Vedic mantras, you have to chant with the correct intonation. Swarit, Udata, Anudata, sometimes in high, low. Purusha evedagam sarvam yadbhutam yatschabhavyam. You have to go like this, up and down in different intonations. Because when two words are joined together in Sanskrit in a compound, it could be so many different types of compound. It could be Dvandva Samas, where there's equal emphasis on each word. It could be Tatpurush Samas, where the words are related to each other. In one of the grammatical cases, like dative, ablative, genitive and so on. Could be Bahuvrihi Samas. So it's the intonate, when you do a Karma Kanda Yagya, it's the intonation which indicates what type of Samas it is. So because the Twasta did the wrong intonation, instead of increasing the power of the enemy of Indra, the mantra meant to increase the power of Indra, who is the enemy. And so instead of producing a being who was more powerful than Indra, he produced a being who would be killed by Indra. But he didn't know it at that time. So as he was completing the yagya, then a huge, ferocious personality appeared from the fire. And he began to expand his form, just as if there are four archers back to back, facing in different directions, and they shoot their arrows, like that. So his form expanded like the arrows going in different directions. He was huge and ferocious. And now Twasta felt confident that this demon, Mahatma Vritra,
yes.
This demon, Vrtrasura, he would go and kill Indra. So then, Vrtrasura, along with the demonic armies, they set off to fight with the armies of Indra. And they were smashing. Vrtrasura was so big, he was just stepping on the demigods like ants. So then they were very desperate. And the demigods and Indra, they went to pray to Lord Narayan. Please save us. And they offered very beautiful prayers, full of Siddhanta. But in the end, they pleased the Lord with their prayers, but in the end, they were just asking, protect us so we can hold on to our position in this world. So they prayed to Lord Narayan, and Lord Narayan was very clever. He said, you cannot defeat them now. They are too strong. But there is one way. If you go to the great Rishi, Dadichi Rishi, and you ask from him his bones, from the power of his tapasya, Vishvakarma can make a weapon from the bones of Dadichi Rishi, a thunderbolt weapon. So when you hear the thunder and the lightning, this is actually the thunderbolt, Vajra weapon of Indra that was made from the bones of Dadichi Rishi. And he said, only by this weapon will you be able to defeat Vrtrasura. So then Indra and the demigods, they approached a Brahmin. So this is very problematic. He's already killed one Brahmin. And now he's going to another Brahmin. Not exactly to kill him, but to request some charity from him. Can you just give me your life? And then I'll take your bones, and then I can protect myself and maintain my position in this world. So how shameless. The Supreme Lord, he wanted to show the whole world how shameless we become, shamelessly attached, to approach the Lord to ask for something other than his service. And then to stoop so low. Indra is a king. Kings are forbidden from begging. Brahmins may beg, but a king can never beg. Never. So now Indra, for the sake of holding on to his power, his prestige and position, he's going to a Brahmin to ask him to give up his life, begging for that. So Indra came and requested, please, oh great sage, can you give me your bones? So the Dadichi Rishi said, don't you know that when a person gives up their body, they experience excruciating, indescribable pain? Indra said, but what is there which cannot be given by a generous person who feels compassion for the suffering of others? Just hearing the sound of it just warps the mind. Indra had discovered a new level of hypocrisy. The Dadichi Rishi said, actually, I was ready to agree from the beginning, but I only spoke like this because I wanted to hear your instructions on Dharma. So then, the Dadichi Rishi knew that Lord Narayan had sent him. So what loss can there be in this? So then the Dadichi Rishi, he went into Samadhi. And in his Samadhi he attained the transcendental abode. He wasn't even aware that he'd given up his body. So this is very important. Try every day to chant and go. Smaran. By chanting without offense, natural remembrance of Krishna will come. And then it will become dharana, concentration. Concentration means when your consciousness becomes withdrawn from every external stimuli. And then dharan will come, the stage of meditation. In the stage of dhyan meditation, you can have the darshan of the Ishtadev, of the mantra, the deity of the mantra. And then as one goes into anusmriti, the pastimes of the Lord appear. And in the stage of samadhi, you yourself can enter into those pastimes. So these are the 5 stages of intensity of remembrance, which culminate into samadhi. So the Dadichi Rishi went into samadhi, and when he gave up this body, he wasn't even aware of it. So if you practice every day, one day you'll chant and go in samadhi, and you'll just be there with Radha. You won't even know that you've died. This is why he says bhakti is amrita. Bhakti ras amrita sindhu. If a shop opened in Locarno, selling the nectar of immortality, buy this and you can live forever, then there would be such a rush. People will fly in from all over the world to buy this. But actually, our Guru Parampara, they are actually distributing the nectar of immortality. You can become immortal. If you will drink this nectar of Harikatha and Harinam, you will not die. You will not even know that you. Everyone may say that you have died, but you will not be aware of it. So Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mohur Aho Rasika Bhuvibhav. Drink it again and again, this nectar. So then, when Dadichi Muni gave up his body, Indra gave his body to Vishwakarma, and he made the very powerful Vajra, thunderbolt weapon. And now Indra, with confidence, he set off again to have war against Vrtrasura and the demons. So this time the demigods were more powerful, and the demonic soldiers, they began to flee. And Vrtrasura was looking at them and criticizing them. You are like the stool of your mothers. How can you flee from the battlefield? And he was criticizing the demigods as well, because the demigods were killing them as they were fleeing. What kind of heroes are you? That you attack and try to kill someone who is afraid and running away. But it is a worse punishment to let them run away than to die on the battlefield. So at that time, now Vrtrasura was without support, but he was ready to fight with Indra. Indra came and threw a trident at Vrtrasura, But very nonchalantly, Vrtrasura caught it in his left hand and threw it back at Indra. And it smashed the elephant of Indra. Airavata fell down. Indra fell off his elephant. And then Indra looked, he saw his elephant was bleeding and very injured. Then Indra, he has nectar in his hand and he touched the wounds of his elephant and revived and healed him there and then. Nowadays many devotees, they want to do the Reiki and everything and heal. Nectar in their hands. So these things actually, they're there in heaven. So, then Vrtrasura said to Indra, come on, fight with me. And Indra, he had the weapon that could kill him. And Vrtrasura knew that this weapon could kill him. But knowingly he went into this battle. And now Indra was there, he had the weapon, but he was hesitating. Why was he hesitating? He was thinking, oh, I've got to kill another Brahmin. This is worldly life. If we're attached, we'll be put into so many embarrassing situations. Even if you're the king of heaven. So he was hesitating, but Vrtrasura, very unexpectedly, he was thinking, why isn't Indra killing me? So a question comes, why was Vrtrasura there? In one hand he'd come to fight, but on the other hand, he was eager to be killed. Because in his heart, he was a devotee. And he wanted to die, to become free from this rajasic demonic body. And so, when he called out, Indra, what are you waiting for? But Indra was hesitating. Then he thought, if he is not helping me die, then I take shelter of the Supreme Lord. And Vrtrasura prayed, Aham hare tava padai kamula dasanu daso bhavitasvibhuya manes parita supate gunangste grinita vakarma karotu kaya. 4 verses spoken by Vrtrasura are very, very important in Srimad-Bhagavatam. This verse you will find in Bhajan Rahasya. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is showing. If you want to do bhajan, then this mood is necessary. Aham hare tava padai kamula. Oh Hari, Supreme Lord, I am taking shelter of you. Will I again, Bhuya means again, will I again, Dasanu daso bhavitasmi bhuya, will I again become the servant of your servant? The bhav is so ecstatic. Why? In his previous life, he was a king named Chitraketu Maharaj. And in that life, he had the sadhu sangha, the association of Angira Rishi. He had the association of Narada Muni. He had the association of Lord Shiva, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, all these great Vaishnavas. And by being in their association, he used to relish kirtan and harikatha. And even he had the darshan of Lord Sankarshan and used to serve him. But now, he had lost that sadhu sangha. And now he was living among the demons. And he was crying that in this life, I did not have sadhu sangha. But he could remember the previous life. And he was thinking, oh, those were the glorious days. I also have some feeling. I remember when I was young, how I used to be with Srila Gurudeva Maharaj, listening to his harikatha, singing in his kirtan, going here and there preaching, and serving him in different ways. But where are those days? Those were the glorious days. But now they have gone. Alas. I remember being with my Gurudev, traveling all over the world, flying 60 times every year, sitting in countless airports all over the world waiting for the flight. Alas, alas, I have to sit here with Gurudeva and discuss Ujjwala Nilamani. And I could talk and ask so many questions. And he would smile and bless me. Sometimes criticize me, sometimes chastise me. Whatever. Blessings and criticism and chastisement is all the same, only affection. Only affection is flowing from Sri Guru. These are glorious times. But, unfortunately, the separation comes. Then the devotee is crying and thinking, oh, perhaps in another life, will I again meet with my Gurudev? Will I again meet with those sadhus who were so kind to me? Srila Trivikram Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. All these great sadhus, will I see them again? So in that mood, feeling separation from Angira Rishi, from Narad Muni, from Lord Shiva, he's standing there, he wants to be killed. Just, Indra, kill me now. And praying to the Lord, Aham Hare Tava Padaikamula, Dasanuda. I just want Sadhu Sangha again. Let me just, if I can just be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. You are so fortunate to be here now. And you can serve, be the servant of the devotee, who's the servant of the devotee, who's the servant of our Gurudeva and Prabhupada. These are the glorious days of your life. But you may see, after a little time, this opportunity will not be there. Actually, separation is such that at those times we don't appreciate how glorious it was. When separation comes, then we look back and begin to see something more of how glorious it is to be in the family of Vaishnavas, Gaura Paribar, the family of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and just to have some connection, render a little service, to have the most atomic presence in that assembly would be my greatest fortune. That feeling comes at the time of separation. So Vrtrasura is saying, Aham Hare Tava Padaikamula Dasanu Daso Bhavitasvi Manas Maritasu Gune Asupate Gunangste. He said, why? Because when we connect ourselves serving the servant of the one-pointed servant of Krishna's lotus feet, then Manasmarata Supate, the mind automatically becomes invigorated with remembrance of the Lord. It's astonishing. If you try to do bhajan by yourself, then what happens? Then becomes dry. And many doubts come. And you sit with Vaishnavas, sing kirtan and hear from them, chant japa, and so many realizations come. So the power to do bhajan comes by association with those who are empowered. Bhajan urjita sajjana sangapatim. We sing in the morning, Oh Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, you are the Sabhapati, you are the leader of the assembly of the Vaishnavas who are bhajan urjita, empowered to do bhajan. You cannot do bhajan just by the mechanical practice of some internal mental rituals. That is not bhajan. So Guru's kripa should be there first. A platform. So Manasmarta Asupate. Asupate means what? Prananath. Pati means nath. And Asu means life or pran. Prananath. What a sweet name for the Lord. You are my Prananath. You know, pran is moving in the nadis of your body. And it is the pran that by which you are unable to sense or have any sensory experience. Without that pran, then the body is completely dead. So when we say, oh Krishna, you are my prananath, means that without you I am dead. My mind, my sense, nothing functions without you. Ashu pate gunangste griniti karma karoti kaya. May my mind be engaged in remembering your qualities, my voice engaged in glorifying your qualities, and my body engaged in your service. When will that come? So Indra's hesitating, so he's praying to the Lord, oh Lord, please inspire Indra to stop hesitating and just finish me now. I'm ready to go. He said, Na naka prishtam, na chaparamestam, na sarvabhomam, na rasadipatyam, na yoga siddhi, na punabhavanva, samanjasa tva virahaya kankshe. He said, my Lord, I don't want to rule over the heavenly planets. I don't want Sarvabhaum to rule over the earth. I don't want to rule over the lower planets. Na chaparamestam, I don't want the position of Lord Brahma. Na yoga siddhi, I don't want yoga siddhis. Na punabhav, I don't even want liberation. Why samanjasa tva virahaya kankshe? Because I'm feeling separation from you. Just like if there's a baby and the baby is crying for the mother's milk. If some man will come along and say, baby's crying, I'll pacify him. So he gives a dummy, the baby throws it out. He gives a blanket, the baby throws it out. He gives a doll, the baby throws it out. He gives a rattle, the baby throws it out. The baby's throwing out everything. Why? Because there's nothing that the child can find pleasure in, because the child only wants the milk of the mother. So in the same way, when the devotees say, I don't want to be Lord Brahma, I don't want to rule over the higher planets or the lower planets or liberation or anything. Why? Because they cannot be satisfied by anything but Krishna himself. Because they're feeling separation. It's very important to note this in our own life. When we have material desires, when we think, I need this, I need to enjoy in this way or that way or so on. What does it mean? It means we're not feeling separation from Krishna. If there were just a little bit of separation in our heart for our spiritual master, if there were just a little bit of separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, then how could we be satisfied by some sense gratification? It's impossible. My Gurudev used to say that the holy name is so powerful. Krishna Nama Mahamantra Eito Svabhav Jaita Petare Krishna Upajai Bhav. Krishna Nama Mahamantra Eito, it's the nature of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra that if you do japa of this mantra, then bhav will awaken. Divine feelings of separation. So if we are chanting and not even a little separation, oh my Lord Krishna, when will I see you? If that feeling is not coming, Duradaiva Midishami Ha Jani Na Anurag, I'm not feeling the anurag, a desperate mood. I'm not feeling the eagerness. Why Duradaiva? Because of offenses. To Vaishnavas, to the holy name, to Thakurji. Because of consciously holding on and maintaining material desires. Due to duplicity. So if a person will be very simple, and from the core of their heart call the name of Krishna, chant Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Then by the power of the Mahamantra, some feeling of separation will come. And when a little separation comes, then what is the question of struggling for sense control? Kaivalyam narakayate tijashapura akasha pushpayate durdantendriya kala sapa portali pratkat dangstrayate. Srila Prabhu Saraswati Thakur said, if a little mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will come, then the senses, which are like dangerous poisonous snakes always attacking the yogi, then the poisonous fangs are removed. They cannot have any effect. That means even the devotee, if by chance, by some bad habit of a previous life, something happens, but no poison. So, Vrtrasura was feeling separation. He said, Jata pakshariva matara kagas stanam yata vatsara samshudata priyam preva vyositam vishana manodvarin daksha didrikshate tam. My Lord, just like newborn calf tied with a rope. When his mother is coming, then the calf is pulling on the rope. Desperate, very eager to drink some milk from the mother cow. So may I have such eagerness like that. Then he thought, this example is not perfect. Because the calf doesn't exactly want the mother, but wants the milk from the mother. Oh, first example he gave was a baby bird. The baby, ajata pakshari vamachakari. Have you ever seen a baby bird? When they have no feathers or anything, they can't even open their eyes. And when the mother comes with some worms, then the baby bird goes so big. And they're so intense, they're just completely absorbed in give me the food. So he said, in my bhakti, may I have that kind of eagerness. When you chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Well, what interesting thing is going on over there? Not like that. When we chant Hare Krishna, ajata pakshari vama, like a helpless baby bird with no feathers, wings have not grown, cannot move, cannot feed itself, completely helpless and completely Krishna. That eagerness. So then he thought, oh, baby bird is eager, but the calf, the baby calf is also doing kirtan, calling. Then he thought, oh, this is not perfect. Better is the example, Prem preva vyoshitam vashanna. One very chaste wife, her husband went to a faraway country, and she's thinking of him. She, with great eagerness, she's hankering for him. And she's calling his name. And in her mind, she's also doing seva. She's thinking, oh, when he arrives, I'll sit him down and I'll bring some food. And he'll eat and I'll fan him. Then after taking prasadam, he'll lie down and I'll massage him and hold his lotus feet on my heart. So she has eagerness internally for all types of very personal and intimate service. So he said, Manohara vidikshite. When will I have such bhav for you, my Lord? Aravindaksha, lotus-eyed Lord. Then he said, Yautama shloka janesu sakyam samsara chakre brahmataso karmabi. But there's one more thing. One more thing I want. And that is that will I have friendship, sakyam, with the Uttama Shloka Jan, with the dear devotees of Krishna. Wherever I wander in this material world, in accordance with my karma, may I always have the opportunity to have friendship with the devotees. That is the only valuable thing. But I don't want that my chitta will become attached to the worldly minded persons. So how important is not only association but avoiding the worldly minded association? When the residents of Kulinagram asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is a Vaishnava? He said, Asat Sangha Chage a Vaishnava Cha. Stri Sangha Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta A. You can tell a Vaishnava by how they give up worldly association, Asat Sangha. That Asat Sangha has two types. Stri Sangi, the association, not only the association like the lusty association with the opposite sex, but only the friendship or attachment to those who have attachment to enjoying with the opposite sex. Stri Sangi, that is one Eka Asadu, is one type of Asadu. And the other type of Asat Sang, Abhakta, Mayavadis, Advaitavadis, impersonalists, those who are opposed to the principles of devotion. So one who avoids the Asat Sang, you can recognize this is a devotee. So he prayed, in my future life, I simply, wherever I go, may I have the friendship with your devotees and may my chitta never become attached to those who are versed to you. So then Indra killed, actually Vrtrasura swallowed him. And then Indra by his thunderbolt weapon cut himself out from his stomach. And he came out and then he began to kill Vrtrasura. And Vrtrasura, he wasn't even aware that he was dying also. He went into samadhi and he attained his destination. Now Indra was astonished. He thought, here I am trying to kill this demon, and now I find out not only is this demon a Brahmin, but he's a pure Vaishnava. And I had to kill him. Now Indra's killing of Vrtrasura was not Vaishnava aparad. Ordinarily when you kill Vaishnavas, it's actually that's actually offense to the holy name. First offense to the holy name, ordinarily. But because Lord Narayan had actually told Indra to get the bones of the deities to kill Vrtra, it was actually the desire of the Lord, and therefore, luckily for him, it was not a Vaishnava aparad. But anyway, it was still Brahmahatya. So the sins of killing a Brahman would come to him. And again, Indra had to do atonement. In fact, he saw the sin approaching him in the form of an old lady with long grey hair who was dying of tuberculosis, who was vomiting blood and had breath worse than a fish market. And she was running after him, oh, come and embrace me. So she was chasing him all over the universe. And he had to go to the lake Manasarovar, and he hid for 1,000 years within the stem of a lotus flower, without any food or drink. So Indra, he suffered so much. Now, this history has many profound teachings. How is it that Vrtrasura was a devotee? Because he had a big demonic body and he was very rajasic. So, this history in Srimad-Bhagavatam is to teach us something about bhakti tattva. Bhakti does not depend on sattva-guna actually. Okay? If a person thinks, I'm going to follow all the rules and regulations and be very, very pakka and very sattvic and everything, and they'll rise up to sattva, and then from sattva-guna they'll go to vishuddha sattva. It's not happening. Bhakti does not depend on sattva-guna. Because Vrtrasura was rajasic. It depends on only one thing. Sadhu Sangha, or rather the kripa, the mercy that we receive in Sadhu Sangha. So because Vrtrasura in his previous life as Chitraketu, he had the association of Lord Shiva, Sankarshan, Narad Muni, Angira Rishi, therefore his heart was full of bhakti. But some offense came. Actually it was not really aparad but abas. The abas of an offense, not really an offense. How did it happen? In his previous life, as you know, you probably know the life history of Chitraketu, I'll not go into detail now, but eventually after overcoming his attachment to his son, Harshashoka, then he became a pure devotee. And the Lord blessed him not only with bhakti but with fabulous wealth. So Chitraketu had an aeroplane, a huge aeroplane. It was like a flying city. And there were so many beautiful ladies of heaven living on that Vidyadharas. And he was flying around. He was a devotee, but he was also kind of enjoying the comforts and facilities that he'd been given, blessed by the Lord as well. So one day he was flying in his aeroplane and he looked down and he saw Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was sitting completely naked with his wife Parvati on his lap, and he was surrounded by all of these rishis and sages. The rishis and sages, many of them were completely renounced, but he was sitting there naked with holding his wife on his lap and giving Bhagavatam, speaking the Lord, as Lord Shiva does. So when Chitraketu saw this, he began to laugh. He gave out a very belly laugh. Oh! Just look. A materialistic person who is very attached to his wife holds his wife on his lap. But this Lord Shiva, even a materialist person won't do this in the assembly of sages. But Lord Shiva is sitting naked with his wife on his lap, in the middle of all the sages, and giving Prayojan, also teaching them about detachment and sense control. Huh? And he laughed like this. So when Parvati heard this, she became upset. She said, "Oh, so now you've become so powerful. You are the controller, and you can give instructions and and ridicule, give chastisement to Lord Shiva, even. Really? You are fallen Kshatriya. You have no right to give instruction to Lord Shiva, whose lotus feet are meditated upon by so many great demigods, even. So I curse you. At once you should fall down, and you're behaving like a demon, you should become a demon." So Parvati gave a curse. At once Chitraketu, he landed his airplane. And then very humbly he came before Shiva and Parvati, and he bowed down. He said, "I accept this curse upon my head, because this is my karma." And he began to offer prayers, and he glorified Parvati. He said, "I am not saying these prayers to glorify you, to please you so that you'll forgive me and retract the curse. Only that you should be happy, you should be pleased with me. No need to retract the curse." And he gave pranam, and then he went away. And then he appeared from the fire of Twasta as a demon, because she cursed him to become a demon. So this history is very, very deep. We see that if you practice pure bhakti, anarthas will go, and from the stage of nistha, after nistha, tadara jastamo bhavas kamalabha dyasya chaita eta anavidam stitam sattve prasiddhati. Then, when you are fixed in bhakti, the effects of lust and anger, the effects of tamagun and rajagun, they no longer affect the heart. They may be present a little bit, but in such a small proportion, chaita eta anavidam, they cannot pierce the heart and give any problem. How can the happiness, the pleasure of ruchi, how can someone relish ruchi if at the same time they're pierced by material desires? It's not possible. So chaitaya eta anavidam, then stitam sattve prasiddhati, one comes to asakti, and the consciousness becomes completely fixed in the Vishuddha sattva swarup of the Lord, which is always reflected in his heart. So, generally the devotee will come to nishtha, and the effect of the gunas will go away before Shuddha sattva comes. But if there's some obstacle, one makes some offense, then the devotee will fall. But his fall is not like the fall of jnanis. When jnanis fall down from their sadhana, then they lose everything. And then they wander for lifetimes through different births. But if a devotee somehow or other falls, his bhakti vasana remains there. It's still there, it's just covered over. And then, at a certain point, when the reaction for the offense is worn off, then that bhakti vasana suddenly appears again. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami has said, whenever you see a situation where a person who is apparently in the gunas and not properly behaved suddenly becomes a pure devotee, it's to be understood that they had the bhakti vasanas, the impressions of bhakti from a previous life. An obstacle came and covered them, and when that obstacle was removed, again they continued from where they left off. So the example is, Rupa Goswami gives the example of Vrtrasura. Because he was Chitraketu, he was a very high class devotee. Then due to offense, which we'll later learn was actually an abhas of an offense, he became like a demon for one life, And then when that obstacle was removed, suddenly his bhakti came out. And aham hare tava padaikamula, dasanu daso bhavit, all those beautiful prayers came. And then he was killed and then he became perfect. So another example is Bilvamangal Thakur. Bilvamangal Thakur was so desperate to meet with a courtesan that he left the ceremony of his own father's Shraddha ceremony. He jumped in the river during a rainstorm that was flooded. He swam across holding on to a bloated dead body. He climbed the wall of the courtesan's garden by holding on to a snake. And then he fell down and was unconscious. And Chintamani said, if you just had a little attachment for Krishna that you have for enjoying my body, your life would be a complete success. When he heard these words, he was amazed. They struck his heart like a thunderbolt. And he immediately realized, oh, I should leave everything and just dedicate my life to Krishna. What happened to me? How am I living like this? So the moral of this story is not, oh, I can become advanced in bhakti by being chastised by a prostitute. Don't take, that's not the teaching from the life of Bilvamangal Thakur. But don't take the wrong teaching. The teaching is how the vasanas of bhakti, they remain in the heart, and even if obstacle will come due to offense, then one will become degraded. Yet still, when the reaction wears off, then the bhakti will manifest again. Another example is Lakshahira. She was a prostitute, but by the mercy of Haridas Thakur, in a second, she became a very high-class pure devotee. It was because she had very strong vasanas from a previous life, and some obstacle had come, covered that. And therefore also, be very careful. Don't criticize any devotee. You may see, a devotee is like a demon even. But maybe he's like Vrtrasura. And the next moment, that obstacle will be removed and he may be very high class. So should be very cautious. Don't criticize, don't judge anyone. You can criticize yourself, but what is going on in others' lives, in others' hearts, you cannot understand. So, more important teachings here. When Indra was in the lotus flower for 1,000 years without eating, then even this did not remove the sin. After that he did dhyan, he meditated on the Lord. And the remembrance of the Supreme Lord purified him. And after that he did Ashvamedha Yagya. So a question comes, why did he do Ashvamedha Yagya after meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord? That Ashvamedha Yagya was only for show, for the public, to remove the stigma. Because the common people don't understand the power of hearing, chanting and remembering. So he did the Yagya, which was a public sacrifice, so everyone will think that he'd atoned. Because the common people don't have faith that just even one holy name can atone for more sins than it's possible to commit. Another important teaching here is that the sages, the brahmanas who ordered Indra to kill Vrtrasura, they also got a reaction. And their reaction was, when Indra went in the lotus flower for 1,000 years, then he left one person in charge named Nahusha. And Nahusha was very diabolical. And he mistreated those brahmanas, so they suffered so much. But after some time, Nahusha became so puffed up, being the king of heaven, that he said to Indra's wife, he said, look, Indra is a post, and now I'm in that post. So you have to serve me. So then Indra's wife was very worried. So what can I do? I'm not going to serve him in the way that a wife serves her husband. So she went to Brihaspati and she asked Brihaspati, what should I do? So Brihaspati said, look, you can tell Nahusha that you will serve him, but only if he comes to meet you carried on a palanquin carried by brahmanas. A palanquin carried by brahmanas. So she told him this, and so he was so feeling such utkanta, such eagerness to enjoy Sachi, the wife of Indra, that he actually got some brahmanas to carry his palanquin. And when he was carrying them by his foot, he touched Agastya Rishi and he told him, Sarpa, Sarpa, means go more quickly, go more quickly. So Agastya Rishi said, Sarpa, oh really, Sarpa. Sarpa also means snake. And Agastya Rishi cursed him, you should become a snake. And so then Nahusha, he lost the position of Indra, and then Indra came back, and after 1,000 years, and again he took that post of Indra. So, another example of a person who was blocked, and then suddenly his bhakti vasana came out. Magrari the hunter. Magrari was half killing the animals, torturing them. But he met Narad, and Narad was merciful to him. And he took shelter, Narad gave him mantra, but in just a few days, he attained bhav. And then when Narad and Angira, Narad came back to see him along with his friend Parvat Rishi. Then the Magrari was about to give obeisances, but he couldn't. He took his cloth and he swept the ants off the path. He was afraid that giving obeisances he would kill an ant. So Parvat Rishi said, oh Narad, you are Chintamani, you are touchstone. That first this person who took pleasure in torturing animals is now afraid even to squish an ant. So there was a very miraculous transformation. But it was very quick. Narad is powerful, he can. But we should understand that he was not an ordinary person. He was a devotee who had become very advanced and then due to some problem was covered and had one life of suffering. But in that very life he attained bhav. Now, what is the very deep sweetness in this Leela? There's a current of love, there's a current of prem flowing through this pastime. Chitraketu Maharaj lived in great opulence. He was enjoying with so many Vidyadhara ladies. So, was he a Vishai, a sense enjoyer? No, he was Vishai Prai. There are two things, Vaishnav Prai and Vishai Prai. Prai means almost. So Vishai Prai means almost or like a sense enjoyer. And Vaishnav Prai means like a Vaishnava, almost, but not actually. So the example of Vishai Prai is Pundarik Vidyanidhi. You know that Mukunda was close to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He told Gadada Pandits, I know you're always eager to have Vaishnav Darshan, Sadhu Sangha. I know a great Vaishnava. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, come with me. So then Gadada Pandit was very excited that he could have the darshan of a Vaishnava. But when he arrived, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very wealthy. He had a palace. He was relaxing on a bed which had sheets which were softer than the foam of milk and silk cushions. His hair was oiled with fragrant oil. His lips were reddish from chewing very delicious different flavors of betel nut. He had a golden spittoon and he was spitting the pan. He had servants standing around. They were fanning him. And when Gadada Pandit saw this is a Vaishnava, he was completely disappointed. So Mukunda could see the disappointment on the face of Gadada Pandit. So then he sang a verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Aho Bhakiyam Stana Kala Kutam. And only hearing this verse that describes the unconditional, intense mercy of Krishna, how Krishna gave position of his nursemaid, like a mother in Golok to Putana, who came to kill him. Then Pundarik Vidyanidhi became in ecstasy, and he was rolling in ecstasy. He knocked the cushions off his bed. He rolled off the bed onto the floor. He kicked over his spittoon. He was tearing at his cloth, his silk shirt was ripped apart, and he was crying, "Oh, Krishna, Krishna." So when Gadadhar Pandit saw this, he was shocked. Oh, what a very high level of Vaishnava he is. And he considered that he'd committed an offense in his mind. So the only way he could become free from that offense was if he would take shelter of him. So he asked Pundrik Vijayanidhi to become his guru and give him diksha. Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. Who can be the guru of Gadadhar Pandit? Who can be the guru of Radharani? So Pundrik Vijayanidhi is the incarnation of Brishubhanu Maharaj, Radharani's father. So her father is Guru Jan also. So Pundrik Vijayanidhi is the example of the Vishai pride. Actually a Vaishnava, but he looks like a sense enjoyer. And Vaishnav Prai looks like a devotee, but actually not. Who? The father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami, Govardhan and Hiranya Majumdar. They used to wear tilak, kantimala. They used to spend a lot of money organizing festivals and bring sadhus to their home. And kirtan festivals and harikatha festivals. And they serve Vaishnavas. But they look like Vaishnavas, but in their heart, they were actually more concerned about their business, their zamindari. They were landholders. They had to collect tax from many people and they were very wealthy. So sometimes someone looks like a devotee and they're interested in bhakti, but in the core of their hearts, they actually have more dedication to their business. So they're called Vaishnav Prai. So Chitraketu was in that category of Vishai Prai. He was actually a devotee, but he was kind of outwardly living a luxurious life. So at that time, the Supreme Lord was feeling intense separation from Chitraketu Maharaj. Even he'd given him wealth, he'd given him bhakti. But the Supreme Lord was feeling separation from him and he wanted to quickly bring him to his lotus feet. And this is why he arranged for Parvati to curse him, that he'd become a demon and then very quickly be killed and then come to Vaikuntha and live with him. So, this we can criticize, look, Chitraketu made offense and he became a demon. No, it was the will of the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord loved him so much he couldn't tolerate separation any longer. So by his mercy, he quickly dragged him through a situation which would intensify his prem, and he brought him to his lotus feet. So actually, it was not an offense, it was a semblance of offense. How do we know that it's not an offense? Because if a devotee will hear aparad, they'll cover their ears and walk away. But when Chitraketu spoke these words to Lord Shiva, he was just basically joking with him. Oh, look at this. How he's sitting with his, naked with his wife in front of everyone, giving katha. And he was laughing. It was actually a glorification of Lord Shiva. But Parvati took it as an insult and she cursed him. But really it was not an offense, because all the sages who were sitting with Lord Shiva also sat in silence. Lord Shiva sat and he smiled. If it had been an offense, then all those sages would have covered their ears and left at once. But they didn't. So this is the sign that it was not an offense. Now, Chitraketu Maharaj, when he was cursed, he accepted it. He came down with great humility, folding his hands and bowing down. And he said, I accept this curse as my karma. That was only humility, not actually a fact. Why? Vidyate hridayagrantis chidyanti sarva sangsaya chiyanti cha asya karmani drista evatmanishvare. When the devotee attains the bhav and prem, then all their karma, the knot in the heart, the ahankar is cut to pieces. All doubts go away and all one's karma is finished and one has darshan of the Lord. This is the conclusion of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So for a pure devotee who's had the darshan of the Lord, they have no karma. Why? Because if the devotee were under the control of karma. But the Supreme Lord is under the control of the devotee. That would mean that God was under the control of karma. Therefore, when Chitraketu Maharaj said, I accept this curse, this is just my karma, this is not true. That was only his dainya bhav, his humility. Then, the Supreme Lord has made this situation, this curse of Chitraketu Maharaj happen. First of all, to show to the whole world the strength of the devotee's samadarshan. Panditaha samadarshana. One who sees everyone equally, but also sees all situations equally. If they are blamed, criticized, if they are glorified, if they are honored or dishonored, for the devotee it's all this. This is his samadarshan. Everything the same. So, because when Chitraketu Maharaj went away, Lord Shiva said to Parvati, just see. Narayana prasave nakutasthani bibyati swarga apavaga narakeshu apitulyata darshanam. Famous verse. Lord Shiva said this verse to Parvati in relation to Chitraketu Maharaj. He said, just see, you cursed him to become a demon. But those who are Narayana Parasave, dedicated to the service of Lord Narayan, Nakutasthati Bibbiti, they are never afraid in any circumstance. Swarga Apavaga Narakeshu, if they're in heaven, if they're liberated, or if they're in hell, Apitulyata Darshanam, for them everything is same. Sama Darshana. So we can see to what degree we have progressed in our spiritual life. To what degree we have imbibed the Vaishnavata, the qualities of a Vaishnava, by how we remain equipoised with equal vision in each circumstance of life. So, a second reason the Lord has arranged this situation where he gets cursed, to remove his improper life. That life, he blessed him with material opulence, but to continue to live like that was improper. So he wanted to remove that. Then, thirdly, the Supreme Lord, who was feeling separation from him, wanted to increase his separation also. And therefore he put him in the demonic birth through the curse of Parvati. And the fourth reason why he arranged Parvati, inspired Parvati to curse him, was because the Lord was feeling separation from him, and he wanted to bestow upon him a very sweet and direct service to his lotus feet in Vaikuntha. It wasn't that when he was chanting and doing kirtan that the Lord wanted him to just realize that internally. He wanted him to have the sakshat darshan and sakshat direct association, direct paricharya seva, which is so sweet. And therefore, for these four reasons, it was the Lord himself who inspired Parvati to give a curse to Chitraketu Maharaj. So, therefore, we should always remember, Na hyasya kahichit rajan pumam veda viditsitam yadvijgyasaya yukta muyanti kavayopihi. Bhishma Dev, when he was on the bed of arrows, he said, no one can understand the intentions of the Lord. Only by inquiring about it, even the learned persons become bewildered. Krishna's Leela is like that. If you saw Chitraketu Maharaj being cursed, would you have understood that it wasn't an offense? Would you have understood that the whole situation was orchestrated by Supreme Lord because the Lord was feeling separation from him, or would you have blamed him? What is going on? So the Srimad-Bhagavatam, through these pastimes, illustrates very vividly how no one can understand the wisdom and the intentions of the Lord, what he's doing in each one of his pastimes. For example, you know that Krishna, he became the minister of the Pandavas. And so, when it looked like war was inevitable, then Krishna came to the palace of the Kauravas, and on behalf of the Pandavas he said, look, you don't have to give them the kingdom or even half of the kingdom, just give them 5 small villages. If they can just do their dharma of protecting one village for each brother, they'll be satisfied. But Duryodhana refused. I'll not give you enough land into which you can drive the head of a pin. He was very mean. But here we see that Sri Krishna, as a minister, as an ambassador, he came to negotiate peace. Now ask yourself, did Krishna want peace? Was it Krishna's intention that there would be peace? Absolutely not. Krishna has come here, yadaya dahi dharmasya paritranaya sadhunam vinasya chaduskitam. Krishna wanted a massive war in which all the demonic forces of the world would be annihilated. He wanted that. But if you look at him, he's going there and he's negotiating peace. But he never wanted it. Therefore, nayasyaka ichit rajan pumam veda vidisi. No one can understand what on earth Krishna is doing. This is one of the things about Krishna's Leela, that we just have to concede defeat. So Srila Vishnu Thakur said, we can understand Krishna's anubhavs. In other words, he's driving the chariot of Arjuna. Why? Because when he sees the love of Arjuna, he just wants to serve him. So his service of driving the chariot for Arjuna, it's a reaction to the ecstasy of love. Krishna being bound by Mother Yashoda. No one can bind God, but seeing Mother Yashoda's love, he became helpless and he was bound. So each and every Leela of Krishna is actually, whatever he does is an anubhav. It's all a reaction to his ecstasy that he feels from the love of his devotees. This we can understand. But Krishna's intentions, no one can understand. Did the gopis have Mahabhav? They know Krishna better than anyone else. But when Krishna disappeared from Rasalila, they sat him down and they tried to interrogate him and make him admit that he'd done something wrong. They could not guess what was the reason why he disappeared. Perhaps you may know something about this. The Rasik reason why he disappeared. He revealed it in his own words. Na parayam neravatya shanmujan. He wanted to humble himself, to minimize himself before the Braj Gopis. And he wanted to glorify their love. But at the time, even the gopis who were so close, even Radharani couldn't understand why he disappeared. Therefore, nayasyaka ichit rajan pumam veda viditsitam. Krishna is doing his Leela. No one knows what he will do next. It's all very surprising and mysterious. And ever fresh. So, another teaching here. Lord Shiva said to Parvati, "Oh, why did you do that? He has not made offense to me, but rather we are friends. We just wanted to exchange some joking words." He was saying, "Oh, look at you. You're there sitting naked with your wife on your lap in front of the sages. Materialistic persons can be shameless, like this. And then Lord Shiva said, I was just about to reply to him. Yes. I am acting like a materialist in front of everyone, but secretly I am doing bhajan. And you are acting like a devotee in front of everyone, but secretly you are enjoying with so many Vijayadaras in your aeroplane, like that. So like this, Lord Shiva and Chitraketu, because they're friends, they're godbrothers, both servants of Sankarshan. So they wanted to have some pleasant joking with each other. But before Shiva could reply, Parvati already became angry and gave him a curse. So Lord Shiva was explaining this to Parvati. He said, "But you interrupted." When Parvati heard this, she was shocked. She said, "Oh Mahadev, you are perfect from Anadikal." When did Lord Shiva become perfect? No time. He was always perfect, from time without any beginning. You are the topmost Vaishnava from time without any beginning. And this Chitraketu, just a short time ago, he was totally in Maya. He just became a devotee recently. And yet still, you have such friendship, because friendship means equality, right? If someone is junior, then they become the servant. But for someone to have friendship, there's a feeling of equality. So she was shocked. This fallen Kshatriya, who just now has become involved in devotional service, and you have friendship with him, even though you are perfect from Anadikal, your heart is so generous. My pranams to you, Mahadev. Om Namah Shiva. And she gave pranam. So, this is the power of bhakti. Once Chitraketu Maharaj became a devotee, then even Lord Shiva was sharing friendship with him. Even the Supreme Lord was feeling separation from him. And even the curse of poverty actually could not touch him. He could have counteracted. Yet he accepted it as the will of the Lord, and that showed the example of the Samadarshan, of the greatness of the pure devotee. So in this way, there are many important lessons, profound teachings. Each story, upakyan, not story, upakyan is history, which is full of upadesh, is called upakyan. Each one is full of very profound insights into bhakti. So as we go through each of the cantos leading to the 10th canto, we collect the impressions of these various mysteries of understanding. Unless we have collected the teachings of 9 cantos, then one is sure to misunderstand Krishna Lila. So for a few days we are discussing the earlier cantos. After a few days we will arrive at Krishna Lila. Gaur Premanande.